Hello everybody, can you hear us? Greetings from Finland.
Hi, everything okay in Portugal?
Okay, and welcome to our Learningshift webinar, which is today about teachers' possibilities in adding self-regulation on studies. And it is me, Annukka here presenting, and also my colleague, Merja. Hello everybody. So we will start for a few words about this Learningshift project, which is, I think, it's very known for you, almost all, but for those who don't know much about the project, it's about learning, and it's about new ways to be a teacher, new ways to study. This project is ending in the end of May this year. So we have still almost half a year to promote this learning idea. We have partners here from Portugal, from Denmark and Lithuania, and we from Tampere, from Finland.
And then a few words about Tampere, where we are. No, actually, we are now with Annukka in this tiny little meeting room in Tampere, but in larger scale. The city of Tampere in Finland, it's I could say the most popular city in Finland, and that's because if you ask Finnish people wherever they are living nowadays in Finland, if you ask them if they have to move to another place, where would they move in Finland? And almost the first, alternative is Tampere. So that's why I can say it's the most popular city in Finland. But it's Tampere, it's city. Now we have a lot of snow right now. But that picture you can see is from the summertime. We have 2 lakes here, and this used to be and still is a very industrial city. And nowadays it's a city of students as well. So we have these 3 universities who are nowadays working together. And then about Tampere, where we are where we are working. So this is the University of Applied Science, and it's the second biggest here in Finland. We have about 10,000 students, 40 degree programs, both bachelor and master degrees, and then about 700.
And because we are dealing with teachers today, so we would like to say some words about our professional teacher education here in Finland and here at Tampere. And maybe you already know that there are 2 ways to become a graduated teacher in Finland. You can study at the University of Applied Sciences, or you can study in universities. And we are presenting these professional teacher education ways to study for a teacher. We have 5 universities of applied sciences who have this license for professional teacher education, and it's 60 credits, this length and large, and we have several teams that the teacher education students are studying. They are studying professional and vocational pedagogical studies, which is a big amount of studies. It's 30 credits. Then they have studies in educational sciences. They do their teaching practice in authentic learning environments. And then they have 5 credits optional pedagogical studies. And the baseline for studies is identity work, because all of them have some other degree behind. They have some other profession, and then they are studying for teachers. So there is a change of identity, or need for new identities in their work. And the studies, they are integrated into students' own teaching work. Nowadays, about half of our teacher students, they are working in schools, in some kind of vocational schools or universities of applied sciences, and half of them, they are coming from so-called working life, and for them the identity work is quite huge change. And all the students, they do an individual study plan that is based on their background, on their goals, and prior knowledge they already have. And this is very special, very different from our university teacher students, that our students, they are quite old for my age, but anyway, average age for students is 42 years when they start their professional teacher education studies. And in practice, it is about 1.5 years they are studying here. It's based on their individual plans. They can study maybe one year, and some of them, they will take 3 years to do these studies, because as I told, they are working somewhere else at the same time when they are studying here. And we have this kind of blended learning here. We have contact teaching days at some or some other physical places, but also we have online days. And they do also group working between contact days, and they do a lot individual work. For example, this teaching practice is very individual. They do it in institutes, in schools, and they have also online studies that are supporting their studies, for example, webinars on special teams. And one more thing about our teacher education, that as I told, they have a university degree mostly behind them, and they must have a minimum of 3 years of occupational experience in the field that they are going to teach. So our teacher students are very much different, like the teacher students from universities.
Sen tulee. Tässä on se.
Could you please, before we go on, could you please check the chat, because Julia is also here with us. She is hosting this presentation, and could you please check the chat, and please close your microphones if you are not speaking, because it's a little bit disturbing, this echo we are having here. We are hearing some voices that are not normal for us. So please, could you turn off the microphones before we go on?
Okay. Yeah. Okay, and then only a few words about us. So me and Annukka, we have been writing together at least 5 years maybe. And we have finished 12 articles, and we are writing the next one already. And these articles all are about new ways to be a teacher, especially in master degree programs, new ways to be a student, and that's what we are going to talk about today. And also about how to be a new ways to be a teacher. The future working life connected with social studies. I present social area and leadership there, and this self-regulation.
Yes, and as Merja told, she works at well-being and health technology here at TAM, and I work in professional teacher education, and we have been working here for 10 years.
Yeah,
yes, about. And then some ideas about this webinar. How are we going to move to the content? We will first talk about self-regulation. What is its definition, and what are the nearby concepts that are connected with self-regulation, and why self-regulation is important, why it is needed in society, in working life, and especially in learning and studies. And then we will also have some discussions on this learning shift, the question about responsibilities. We will ask you to write on the chat some answers, some ideas, some questions or comments on our teams during our presentation. Of course, you can write questions all the time, and Julia is going to check the chat, but we will have special space and time for these checkings during this webinar. And then the second part is about teachers' possibilities to promote self-regulation. We will talk a little about teachers' practical theory, teachers' competencies according to our studies, what we have done together with Merja here, and also other studies. And then we will think about if we are really moving towards new ways to be a teacher, towards new teachership, and we will discuss a little about what does it mean to be a teacher. And then finally we will have time for final comments and questions, and then we have finished our content. So Merja, please, about self-determination.
Yeah, I would like to tell you about some backgrounds about this self-regulated learning, which is the main point. But I've been studying working life, and like I told you, the leadership, especially in the social services. And this self-determination is a new concept, and it's coming more and more important in working life nowadays. And in shortly, it's the ability of a person to act independently without the need for outside guidance or control. And when we are working as a specialist, it's not possible that somebody, the leader or whoever, would tell us what to do all the time. So we need to have the motivation and the knowledge and things like that ourselves. So these Martela and Jarenko in Finland has been writing and studying this subject a lot. And they have also written in English about this, and they have gathered that the person needs to be self-motivated. So we can't kind of ask anybody to be motivated, or we can ask, but maybe it hasn't that effect we would like it to have. So the person or the employee has to be self-motivated, and he has to have a clear purpose for his tasks or jobs. So it doesn't make any sense that we are just working for the work, or we are just spending the 8 hours there. We have to have this clear purpose, and hopefully other people in this organization knows it as well. And then we have to have, as an employee, we have to have the knowledge that requires to achieve the goal. So if we don't have the knowledge, we have to, be aware that what kind of knowledge we need more to be able to do that job. And then we have to have this ability to lead ourselves. So it's kind of telling the same story, but in the different angles. So nowadays in the working life and in the future, in the near future as well, the worker has to know what he or she is doing, and has to have the motive, her or herself. The self-determination theory also speaks about this, and the theory is the theory of motivation and personality that addresses 3 universal and psychological needs. So it's kind of the same thing, but in different words, kind of the competence, the autonomy, and psychological relatedness. So like our researchers, Martela and Riekki, says it, you have to have, and there's a huge difference between these generations. Like in Finland, there has been a lot of studies about us, like in our 50s, certain things are important for us in working life. But these nowadays about like these 30s, like Julia here, it's, you know, different things are important. And one of the most important thing is that work is meaningfulness. And it means that they want this new generation, that the work has certain kind of autonomy and the certain competence. They want to be able to learn new things. They have to be this sense of caring relationships, that they don't want to be alone in the work. They don't want to work alone. They are working in teams and things like that. And then there has to be this sense of making a positive contribution. So this work meaningfulness is very, very important. And then there's another story about this change in working life. So we are kind of we have been studying with Annukka that when there is this changes in working life, changes in leadership, like the leadership has been changing from this authority, giving orders kind of leadership to this coaching. It's very, very different nowadays than it was like 30 years ago. And because the leader acts differently, and I can always, I've been studying, you know, researching leadership very, very many years. So there's this same kind of change in being a leader and being a teacher. So if the leader has become very different, so the employee has to become different too. So a good employee's criteria have been changing during the last, let's say, 20 years, very, very much. And this good employee in 2020 is critical. Like it used to be very passive, being very nice. But nowadays, employees need to be critical, active, and involved. So it's not enough that we go to our working place and just be there because we are paid for it and somebody tells us what to do. We have to be very, very involved and critical, active ourselves. So it doesn't matter where we are actually doing the work. We are responsible that the work will be done. So why this self-determination in working life, one more time, is that the working life is changing more and more rapidly. So there's changes and the changes. The change is our normal situation nowadays. And because there is so many and so rapid changes, it's not possible that like the leaders are thinking that what kind of changes we should do with the employee. And then they are kind of have these meetings and they are thinking that what would we have to do like 1 year or even 6 months, because then there's another change. And that's when you are working as a specialist, you have to do the changes in your work yourself. You know your work best. And the transition of the jobs, though, so they are saying that we don't know, it's hard for being a teacher to do the education because we don't know the young people nowadays, like if they are 10 today, what kind of working life they are going to, what kind of the working life is going to be when they are like 20 or 30 or when they are going to be 50. So there's new jobs. There's we have to know different kind of things. The knowledge is different, but there is this certain basics you have to know that you can manage with the working life in the future. And the thing is that the jobs that are not disappearing is the jobs that need creative or and problem solving, and then jobs where you are face-to-face when you meet people, because the robots, the machines can't replace the human, relationships. And like they say here, is that creativity and problem solving are things that you can't lead with a stick. So you can say to your employee that be kindly and smile, but it has to be, he or she has to be motivated to, work in that way. And one more thing that it has been changed a lot, a huge amount in the last decades, is that the information technology is now enables us to coordinate between large forces. It used to be that way, that in the Monday morning we all come in this certain place physically, and then the leader tells that now the situation is this and we have to do this and whatever. No, we don't need that kind of meetings anymore, because we can just send a message and it doesn't matter if there's 100 people or 100,000 people, they can get the same message immediately. And then finally we are in our point that this self-regulated learning. So if the employees in the working life needs new kind of knowledges, we should be, as a teacher, to be able to teach those how to be self-regulated already in school. So it's kind of impossible situation if you have just an example. If you would have go to school and the teacher would have told you everything you have to do and what kind of things you can do, and come here Monday at 8 o'clock and do this and this. And then you finish your school and you go to the working life where you should be your self-determination. You should know what to do. And they have been telling us these stories that students go to have their first working place, and then they just sit there, like they are going there, they are in time, they are at 8 o'clock there, and then they are waiting that somebody tells what to do. And that's not a good employee anymore. So about this self-regulated learning, there has been many studies that this self-regulated behavior is important. It's increasingly important predictor of academic outcomes. So if you are going to be a good teacher, at least in university, you have to have this certain amount of self-regulation. And in short, this is ability to learn autonomously is regarded as important as adapting to a rapidly changing society. And in nutshell, the term self-regulation means regulation of one's thinking and actions. So it's kind of the same thing what I was telling you before, but being a student, they use a kind of little different words. And what is coming more and more important is this lifelong learning. So there isn't anybody who can, go to school and work with that knowledge for 40 years. It's not possible anymore. So it's more and more important that you have this ability to learn, because you have to be learning. You don't have to necessarily go to school, back to working life, but you have to be able to learn new things while you are working. And this then this self-regulation is seen as very much in context-specific process, and we come to that later on in this presentation. And maybe Vermont claims, and he represents kind of this certain opinion about this self-regulation, that the long-term goal of teaching is that the external regulation by the teacher should eventually be replaced by self-regulation by the students. But I think we could say that when our students graduate, they should have this amount of self-regulation or self-regulated learning that they can manage in the working life. They should be aware of their strengths, and they should be aware what to do when they notice that they don't have enough knowledge and so on. And one last idea about this thing is that this Zimmerman is the most famous researcher about this thing, and this his model about this self-regulation, like you all see, it's very, very familiar to all of us, because it's very near. In whatever we are developing, we have this kind of circle, the same circle. But being a student, you have to have this goal. You have to have this purpose for why you are studying. You have to make these targets, and then you have to have this. You have to need this action, what you should do to get there to your targets, and then you have this reflection and what happened, and do you know enough now, or things like that. So it starts with the goal settings, and then there is this self-control, and then this self-reflection. And one more thing is that, at least in Finland, when you talk about self-regulation, and the last sentence from the dia before is that it's a common sense that we shouldn't leave the students alone. And if you remember one thing from this webinar, it might be that self-regulation is not being alone or teaching or studying alone, because these researchers, Zimmerman and especially this Pintricht, emphasize that they have been in their studies found out that in this kind of learning you need more people than when you are learning or studying in the traditional way. So you need help from other students, you need teacher, and you need maybe some people from working life. And it's not about being alone, but it's about studying in teams and in networks and building those networks. They are very, very important. And then finally, this is a little break before Annukka continues. So, what do you think? We hope you maybe write it on the chat. So, what do you think? Who do you think is responsible for the learning outcomes? And another question: who is responsible for the outcome of your work? Any ideas about this?
Odotetaan vähän, jos tulee
Yeah, and if you want to use the microphone, it's okay for us, of course. Make a comment or ask a question or whatever. If nobody else, so Annukka.
Yes, according to your presentation, I think we would like to promote this idea that maybe I will come to this later, but it's the teacher's, how would I say, task to promote the student that he or she could be more responsible for his or her learning, and he would be the subject of his own learning process. And maybe we would like to, I can say we would like to promote the idea that the student would be more responsible for learning outcomes, because while I started about these teacher education studies, and I said that we have the same curriculum for all, but they are still making their own individual paths and individual goals for studying. So maybe if they are more committed to their learning processes, so they are maybe more willing to take also this responsible for the learning outcomes. Or what do you think? I am right?
Yeah. I agree with you, surprisingly. Yeah. But I think it's the important thing is that students we shouldn't see maybe students as objects, and they are kind of we are working with them kind of. So. Yeah, and of course we can't kind of say that it doesn't matter what the teacher does, or that it's not teachers responsible at all. But kind of if they are working together or doing it together, or they have this common target, so it's not that it's not only teachers responsible, but it's not only students responsible as well. So both ways.
Of course, teacher is the specialist in this curriculum, and he or she as a teacher must know what is the main goals, but maybe they can be reached in individual ways. So they will reach the same targets by using different paths, maybe.
Yeah, and like employee, as you're working, the student should tell or ask for help. So if he or she should be motivated and capable of realizing, and if something is not working, there's something he is lacking, some knowledge or something like that, or something doesn't work in there. So they should be active, both of them, and being able to build it in the way that serves them both, the teacher and the student.
And I think it comes to this question too, also, as you have put here, that who is responsible for the outcome, and in this kind of specialist organizations like we are working, so maybe we are quite a lot responsible for reaching the tasks, reaching the goals that we have in our work, but also, as you said well, that we should also ask help if we are not capable of doing something, or because in this kind of organization there are persons who know about some areas better than us, so we don't have to know everything, but we should use our networks and colleagues.
And it's teamwork more and more in
Yes.
studying and in working.
Yes.
So because there are so many things to know, so.
There is one comment about teacher is responsible for providing resources for students to be efficient in their learning. So it's a possibility.
Yes, and we will come. This is good point, and we will come to this teachers' possibilities and ideas for this also later. That's good comment there. Thanks for it.
Yeah, and we are not claiming that we don't need teachers in the future, but the role of the teacher is changing, because the knowledge or the attitude is very important of the students. They need to grow to be a good employees already while they are studying, and the role of the student and the employee, they're kind of similar.
Yes, I think we have some kind of this kind of career guidance idea in this our studies, because we are not studying for this school or this University of Applied Sciences, but we are studying or teaching them for working life. And as you told that the working life is changing, there is no time for asking so many questions. You just have to do, and you just have to act and be responsible for your acts, so you don't have time for asking everything. So I think our goal is in this, as you started, that the working life is not the same as it was maybe after 50 years. So that's why we have to learn teach our students to be ready for working life. I think that's the point, and of course teachers are playing a big role in this kind of advising and teaching and so on.
And one more comment about that students understand that they should learn by themselves. However, it is if teacher is very boring, not interesting, and does not motivate, it's hard for them to be motivated enough. Also,
that's good.
Yeah.
Sometimes learning is hard. We have to put this and have this in mind, that learning is not fun all the time, but it needs time and it's hard. And that's good comment, that it's not just having fun. Of course it can be fun, but not all the time, as we will show one picture about this, that the teacher can, sometimes it needs that the teacher gives the basic ideas and lectures and so on. We are not saying that we should just have some group work and working by students, but teachers are also needed there.
Yeah, and a teacher needs to be active as well.
Yes.
It's also that the role, like I said, it's different, and the ways you learn students to study, it's different. It's not that we know all as a teachers and we kind of tell them all our knowledge, but they need to learn how to find out and how to function in the future as well. So it's also the teacher needs to study more.
Yes, I think we are moving very, very well to the next part of our presentation, because we are already talking about this teachership, and the next part we will like to talk is about these teachers' possibilities to promote self-regulation. And of course you are free to write comments all the time to the chat, and Julia will be aware of that. But first of all, I would like to start about talking about this framework for new teachership, for new ways to be a teacher. And as a cornerstone, I have put here this idea of this teacher practical theory. This is the first task of our professional teacher students. They do here when they start their studies. They think, they write down about their ideas about human beings, about knowledge and learning. And I think for ourselves who have been teaching for years, it would be very good every now and then to stop to think about these themes. And when we are talking about these changes and changes in teachership, changes in studentship, so I think it's good to think that we are changing from what to what. That what is the real change. We are also all the time talking about changes, but we are not maybe thinking that what is really changing. And first of all, you don't have to answer them by now. It's not an exam for you, and for not us either. But I would like you to think about what do you really think about what is human being. I have had some students who have background in chemistry, they have background in medical sciences, they have background as engineers, they have background as human science. So they all of them think very in different ways about human beings. Some of them think that it consists of the different parts, that the parts are functioning, and you can put some impression, and it's acting. The human being is acting like that. And of course, social sciences, we think more like this human being is part of his community or whatever. And it's very interesting to hear these discussions between students, teacher students. But also this comes to the idea that what we think a human being is as a learner. And this comes, of course, the methods we would like to use and how we can think that he or she can learn. And what is knowledge? What is knowledge in your field? As Merja said, knowledge is in the future? Is it different really in your branch, in your field, or is it the same? In some ideas, maybe, for example, in mathematics, I think there are some basic knowledge that is not changing so much. But maybe in educational sciences, we think that we are constructing the knowledge almost every time we meet or every day. And it is something that is on the move. It's changing. And then learning. This is very interesting question here in Finnish vocational education. Just now, we have had this kind of reform in vocational education, and we stress a lot here this kind of individual learning paths. The young students, they are doing their studies very individually, and the studying is not group-based anymore. But on the other hand, as we think about the needs of working life, they need working life is very abstract conception here, but I think there are many jobs that there is needed this kind of collective working, group working. I think there are not so many professions that you can work all by yourself. There is some kind of this kind of peer working needed. And on the other hand, we stress a lot this kind of individual choices. On the other hand, we need collective phases in work, and that is very interesting thing how to promote them as a teacher. And then the new concept, quite new concept here in Finnish education is this competency-based learning, that the students, they are only learning these things that they don't know beforehand. They are checked what they already know from the curriculum, and then they are only learning these themes they don't know beforehand. And well, that's an interesting question, but maybe it's the subject for next webinar. I don't talk about it more because it provokes quite a lot of feelings here in Finland too. And also when you think that you think something about human beings, you think something about knowledge, you think something about learning, and what is really teaching in this context. This is the final reflection for you. You don't have to. You can answer them if you want, but it's for your own thinking in the evening time. So please think, think and rethink. And then there are some latest studies we have done together with Merja, and I have done some studies in different contexts too. But we have some studies in what are these teachers' competencies in education, in vocational education now. So the first competence is here I have put is some kind. The teacher should add this kind of individual support. He or she should know the students individually, and at the same time there should be this kind of feeling of belonging. The students should be welcome in the group, and they should feel comfortable in being in their studies. And then, as we also, I think we a little bit talked about this already, but the teacher is someone who knows the wholeness of studies. He or she knows the curriculum, he knows the goals, he knows the level of knowledge that should be reached. Teacher should be some kind of guide, I would say here, this kind of guide in this study travel. And we have had this kind of workshops during this Learningshift project. We had, I think, 4 workshops, and there we found some kind of ideas what the teacher should be. There is a need for taking care of students. We don't say that we don't need to do this kind of social work, but somehow you should show that you are caring about your students. You are interested in them, in their life, not just only students, but on the wholeness of their lives. And the students wants us to be some kind of reminders, that we remind, okay, you have this kind of deadlines, you should do this task now and then concentrate on the other one. So this kind of very traditional things things are shared. And also, of course, this kind of genuine interest for students, and this is very important for our students, that the teacher is really available and he or she is present at when he or she is teaching or whatever guiding. So he is not looking at his smartphone or talking on phone, because it has been happening such a situation also that the teacher has this class there, and then he goes and takes a phone call, and the students know that, okay, he is not interested in us at all. And then the learning atmosphere is very, very important, because it comes to the first point, that feeling of belonging and this kind of good learning atmosphere, they are going hand in hand. And this is very interesting in Finnish society and Finnish learning. And we had this international week last spring here in Tampere, and our international guests, they were very surprised about this, how we trust on students. But I think we could do even more on this side, that somehow make the students that we are really trusting them. We are promoting the trust, and I think it's only done by little things. You only say that, okay, you made very well that. That's good, Merja, that you said so, and you can go on. You can make your own choices. It's only little words that you can promote, that you are trusting the students and what they are doing. That's really good work. And then we think these new learning environments, very much electrical learning environments, are rolling on our work every day. We have new platforms where we should sign in, and also I'm very terrified because I'm starting a new teacher-student group in spring, and I'm not very familiar with these learning environments, and I should teach my teacher students how to use these kind of electrical environments. But I'm taking the second part of this sentence. I'm going to use this peer learning to use the platforms, because I know that in every group there is some persons who are very interested in Teams, and I don't have to know everything. But I think this is good idea that teachers don't need to know everything, but they can use this peer learning and use the students as helpers there. Encouraging is very good competency. I'm just thinking when I wrote this list that how can I teach maybe teachers to encourage their students, but maybe as we said before, it's only little words. It's something saying that you said you did well and you did good. Not only you did good, but I hate the word but, because it's not encouraging anymore. Then the teacher, of course, we are talking in Finnish competencies, Finnish society. So societies now, we use this kind of lot of networks in our teaching. We should search and try to find time and space for learning, not only at schools. And that's a very good competency if you have networks, maybe from your previous works or colleagues, so you can use networks and maybe somehow I would say send students to learn there. And this comes to this authentic learning, which is very important for vocational professional students, that they can learn in authentic learning environment. And it comes to these networks, that you have these networks that you can use in promoting this authentic learning in right environments. And assessment also, that it's important that it's done in the right way, that it's assessing the things that are really learned and taught. And I put here some dilemmas that we should overcome in our teaching. As you maybe noticed, that we have this individual part of learning, but also we should promote collective learning together. then we should somehow take care of students, but somehow we should also add trust on their own doings. And then we should promote this kind of encounterings, being together with other human beings. And then there is the need for this kind of e-learning platforms. We should work in digital learning environments. Of course, we can encounter people there too, but I think I'm so old-fashioned that I think it's a little bit different to encounter people in e-learning platforms like you encounter them in real face-to-face situations. And this is one question for all of you. Please help me and tell me how these teams could be exceeded. How could we overcome this kind of things that are important if we want to add this kind of self-regulation? We should promote individualism, collectivism, taking care, trusting, encounterings. What do you think? Or you can also open your microphone and tell, but I'm very pleased of every comment. Merja, you can say first your idea.
Yeah, but it's about balancing. It's very important because being an individual, but we can't kind of being their mothers, and we can't, make them passive because we know best and we are doing their, for them. And at the same time, like it's very interesting because and it depends even from the student who needs this and this. But this encouraging, and we are as a teacher, we know. We are interested in what they are doing and what they are knowing, and we know what they are knowing and teaching. Because if you just say that, very good, you are a nice person, and you know that today you didn't do anything, it's not working at all. It's better that I don't say anything. But when I'm interested and I know that you do, then I can say, that was good. Especially in this thing, you have improved a lot. And when it's the case, its effects.
Yes, I think we have some experience in taking part in this kind of education by ourselves, that everything you do is said, oh, you did so well, and we know that I have that nothing, and it can't be well. So I think it has to be some kind of connection between the reality and not just encouraging for encouraging's sake. Okay.
No comments.
Okay. Okay. I will show you this kind of picture. I think you already mentioned that, and we already talked a little about this. That the new teachership, it's not something that is permanent, and if I work only on this different special role, and you can see that on the left side there is a teacher activity is very, very high when she or he is working as its kind of lecturer, and this is needed. I much agree with this, that sometimes you now have to give a good lesson, you have to teach, but then maybe during one lesson or during one course you can change your role to be more like this facilitator. I think these are very interesting words here that we are using in Finnish language, so that sometimes we are working as lecturers, sometimes teachers, mentors, coaches, or facilitators. And sometimes you can start your lesson by being a lecturer. You give the basic information, and then you can very quickly change your role to be like a facilitator when the activity of students is very, very high, and you are just seeing that they are working, they are dealing with the right teams, and you can just move around the classroom and see that they are working, and you can then take maybe your role back and be a little more teacher. Okay, you are not concentrating on this team, so let's come back to this teacher role, and I will teach you a little more about this subject. I think I like this picture because it says that as to promote self-regulation, different kind of roles of teachers are needed.
And I think it's important, like you said, that even in the same, during the same day or things like that,
Yes.
Comparing, if it used to be like that we are lecturing like 4 hours, and not so many people can listen for hours. So
that's
nowadays we are, doing the lecturing like half an hour or maximum
yes.
1 hour,
Yes.
and then your students can be active and
Yes.
find out themselves. And if they are going to right direction, sometimes you are not needed.
Yes.
Like
yes.
you are just checking that
Yes.
it's going to the
But
right
then
direction.
you can change your role if they are not doing the right things, then you can change back. You are not, you just have to be one role during the whole course or during one lesson. So I like this idea. I put here some ideas about this promoting self-regulation, that it's on the knowledge, attitude and action level that we have studied with Merja, that there should be some knowledge about the possibilities. There should be attitudes towards learning possibilities, and there should be real action for creating places for discussion. And we need all these levels when we talk about this new teachership. And as Merja said, what was the one thing that you said, that the self-regulation is not meaning that the students are left alone? And in my part, if you don't remember anything else, and please remember the last sentence, that the teacher is needed for leading the learning processes. I think this is the main message from this part of teachers promoting self-regulation. Teacher is not he or she will be needed. The students will never cope with the studies without teachers, without us. The teachers are needing maybe facilitators, maybe lecturers, but teachers are leading the processes. And then we have this we have 3 minutes time for final discussion, but maybe you can reflect these ideas, but I think our main point was to promote the idea that what kind of student would be a self-regulated learner, what kind of student would be a self-regulated future worker, and what kind of teacher promotes self-regulation on learning. So I think I come back to this practical theory and this attitude, knowledge and action levels, that we should think about this new teachership in different levels and from different perspectives.
And I think one concrete example is that we should allow the students to make mistakes as well.
Yes.
And they can learn from that. Because if we are just making sure that everything's going right way, so...
And what about teachers? Are they also allowed to make some mistakes?
Yes, I'm very relieved. That's why I can be a teacher.
Yes.
Even in the class, I can say wrong thing and some Googles, and no, it wasn't that. Yes. Thank you.
And I think this is one good example of promoting self-regulation, because the teacher is some kind of example of the working life and the vocational profession. So maybe if he or she is also making mistakes, so they can freeze themselves that we can also make mistakes, and he or she, the teacher, is also a human being. So I think it's very, very good idea that, of course, we are not making so many mistakes, but it's possible for us.
Yeah, but if we are trying new things.
Yes. And maybe sometimes the role what we are taking in the class, it's not working. Maybe we should be flexible.
Yeah, and we should realize that it's not working. We shouldn't, it shouldn't stop us trying new things.
Yes.
But we should understand that now it's not working.
Yes,
and change them.
And this is about this, that we are really present and we are really active in the classroom, that we are not thinking what I should
the basics.
Yes, that I should go to shop and buy some milk and sugar. So I think we must be present and active in the classroom. Here are some references. You will get these slides. I'm sorry, there's most of them are in Finnish, but if you're interested, so we will share you some ideas, because we are just working on the new articles. So we will.
It's in English.
Yes, we write in English about the self-regulation. And for now, was there any comment?
Yes, there is some question. There is some comments, and I read some of them. So it's one of the most self-regulated learner could be that who really need practical knowledge and skills and knows what he needs.
That's true.
So
Yeah.
Yes.
and this self-regulation works well for adults learners who know what they want. It is quite different with young learners in mandatory education, as comment.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. But in Finland, we have put this, I think, in what is this elementary schools. They also
Yeah.
try to use this kind of self-regulation, and in vocational education, when they start at about 60, 50 years, so they are adding this self-regulation, and that's why I think our teachers should be very aware about these possibilities, how to promote it, because it's younger students that are connected and try to be.
Yeah, and it's the level of the self-regulation that, like in
Yes.
master students, it works very, very well. You just have to have this discussion, and they put their targets, and then they just go and learn, kind of. But the younger you are, it's not the same thing being self-regulated learning with the adults and people who are working already. But there's this level differences.
And this about space for learning and growing. There is one comment that it requires a lot of confidence of yourself as a teacher to give space to others to grow, fail, learn, try again with our support.
That's a good comment.
Yeah.
And as you know, we should have one more hour to discuss about these themes, because we are just getting warmed here. But maybe we'll discuss on these themes later. But would you like to thank our audience?
Yeah. This is so interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's an interesting theme. And
thank you
thanks for attending, and hope to see you maybe in final conference in Portugal with Learningshift. So have a nice week, and springtime. We are still waiting for some more snow, but spring is coming to Finland also. So bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.